Hi everyone, very excited to host you today to talk more about this very incredibly exciting topic. Quick introduction on myself, I'm Ferdinand, I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Moss, a spend management platform that's focused on the specific needs of European SMBs. Talking to controllers and accountants every day, we've observed that the general theme of AI is so much more top of mind for everyone. But we've also observed that the finance professionals have some very unique needs and some very valid concerns when it comes to the technology. So today, I'm incredibly excited to sit here to talk to real veterans in the industry, to have a very open, honest, and transparent conversation about the topic. Welcome, Nicolas. Welcome, Ahmad. So excited to have you today, to real experts and veterans in the field. Both of you work with AI, but also specifically with finance professionals every day. And so we just, heard about why this is obviously relevant and top of mind for all of our customers. So excited to have you today and to discuss. Ahmad, at PwC, you work with AI to streamline accounting processes quite a bit, both for your customers, but also internally. And I'm excited to hear more about that from you. But before we do that, can you maybe shed some light on what we really mean when we talk about AI? What are some of the most common concepts? What is some terminology that the audience should be aware of?
AI is a set of algorithms, of computer programs, that are built to produce human-like decisions or human-like content, for example. And of course, my goal is to solve tasks, mainly routine tasks and complex tasks. Now, under AI, there are different, of course, algorithms, but there are two groups of algorithms. There's a connectionism and symbolism, it's called. So symbolic AI is more like the traditional AI, which is more like rule-based. And I like the call or the name connectionism or connection or association-based AI, because it's actually better or easier to understand it than the modern name to it, which is machine learning.
Exactly.
Because
I think machine learning is what most people know, right?
Right, exactly. So people now hear machine learning, but machine learning actually is about association between patterns. So that can be learned from data. And this is basically under machine learning umbrella. There are many algorithms, but now the most famous one is called neural network, which actually mimics how human learns. So how the biological neural network, at least to what we understand of how it works.
Yeah.
And the core concept of it is basically that it connects patterns.
Thank you. Makes sense. Nicolas, you also, obviously work with both finance professionals and AI every day, specifically with generative AI, if I understand correctly. You told me you worked with hundreds and thousands of finance pros last year in trainings, in discussions in the field. Can you maybe shed some light on common misconceptions, misunderstandings? So where do people have, maybe also false hope when it comes to AI?
So what is interesting, when I start trainings with finance professionals, they really hope that AI is this magic tool where they just fill in their financial data, and at the end, they get the financial reporting and the financial analysis done.
Yeah.
And this hope also creates fears, but we all know that AI is not there yet, and I have ready to demonstrate always that it's more an assistant right now, rather than somebody who or something going to do this task.
Right.
And so we need to break this misconception.
Yeah.
And how we do that is by explaining how AI works. So the same way that you just explained, and by showing first that if any AI tool doesn't have access to your data, doesn't also know how an Excel file is structured, then it cannot really help you. What it can do is a lot of AI tools, like the most famous one, ChatGPT, has such a large base of understanding of how our world is. Like, imagine having this super assistant, like just a junior, but he read all of the encyclopedia, he read all of Wikipedia, maybe, I don't know, like all of the project management skills, Excel skills, read everything. Yeah. But if you give to this assistant the Excel file without context, they will not know what to do. If you start saying, okay, like in this Excel file, which type of KPIs could I calculate? Then this assistant will go in this encyclopedia and think, okay, like based on this Excel file, if I see names, position, salary, I can see maybe if I can run an average salary by position.
Yeah, because you have done that before, right? So that you always remember. Yeah.
And so it's really now for finance people is to understand that you are working with AI and not just like giving your data and getting an output.
Yeah.
And the second misconception is about data. A lot of people are afraid to put their data in those AI tools. And the way I explain to people is you have been using cloud solutions for now maybe 10, 15 years. Probably your company, if it's a modern company, is using Gmail or maybe a Microsoft Outlook. All of these data are already on cloud. And if your company decides to go on an enterprise plan with one of these big LLM providers, then you will go on the security side and see that those rules are the same than any cloud providers.
Yeah. But I think that's important, right? It has to be an enterprise plan. You cannot just use the publicly available version of ChatGPT or Gemini.
Exactly.
To do, or like to feed it with pretty confidential data, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think on the former point that you mentioned, right? I think the one framing that really helped me understand things in the beginning was, with regards to the assistant, it really helps you to get from A to B a lot faster, but you need to tell it to go from A to B, right? So it needs to learn from you and needs to context to do that.
Right. I think the challenge there is how you measure that. I think this is a challenge that most companies and enterprises are facing now.
Yeah.
So how to measure productivity gain or increase.
Yes.
But it's definitely, we see it, we experience it, but how to measure it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that more, actually.
Yeah.
That's also a topic we think about a lot in our product development.
Yeah.
And I think there's ways, right? I think like, for example, showing it right in the moment of where it has done something to call out, okay, you probably would have taken 5 minutes to do this. It took me 1 second,
Right. All right.
Okay. So we learned about what AI is, how to think about it. Let's maybe make it more concrete for finance professionals, right? So let's think about operational workflows. What are some things where you see big potential to adopt this technology, like right now? What do you see, work in real life?
When you want to solve a problem, imagine your boss comes in your office and the results are not really good. You need to find a plan to save costs. And I had this in my experience where, okay, like we are finance, we have to find ways to save costs and we have to be the project manager of that. Well, instead of trying to find ideas from nowhere, start by explaining to generative AI what is your problem without saying anything confidential if your company doesn't have an enterprise plan. And then you will run a discussion having kind of a free consultant that will answer instantly and will give you a list of actions you can take in your company.
Yeah.
And then to go really to something really practical, then you will choose an action and then you will go down in something more practical, like really like step-by-steps, KPIs to measure that and how to really implement it.
Yeah.
And even though you think you are only with text, you can even ask, draft me an email about this action plan, then draft a project charter, then after give me a calendar on how to follow that. Yeah. And you went from a problem having to reduce cost to having a plan and you can start working straight away.
Yeah.
And on top of this, so really like the writing, the solving problems, we all work all day with Excel, with PowerPoints, with our ERPs. And I think a lot of us don't use it as the full potential.
Yeah.
So we all go to our go-to person for Excel or PowerPoint, or we have our favorite blogs. But if you go to Copilot or ChatGPT and explain your Excel problem, you will get instantly an answer adapted to your worksheet, and you will even get a formula that you can copy and paste and use straight away.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. It can write formulas for you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really something, even me as an Excel expert, I learned some graphs that I didn't know exist, like a box plot. And I would recommend everybody, each time you have a problem with the software, go there and ask your questions.
But back to misconceptions, right? I think one other misconception that I've heard about is, so what generative AI cannot do is analytics, right? It can write you the code to run analytics, e.g. in Python or formulas in Excel, but it cannot run the analysis for you, right? I think that's maybe one more thing to be aware of.
Yeah. So in generative AI, there is the word generating.
Yes.
Which means that AI will generate an answer, and like you explained, the most probabilistic answer. But in finance, we don't want a generated answer. We want a calculated answer. And that's why, like you explained, it's really important to let the AI prepare the formulas that you can audit, prepare the code that you can audit, and then you use that in a machine like Python or Excel that will run the calculation that you can audit, that you can understand, and where you're sure if the data source is the same, then the result will always be the same. And that's really something as a misconception. Don't let GenAI calculate. Let GenAI give you the formula or give you the code.
Yes.
Yeah. But it could be also giving the code and then evaluating the code.
Yeah, it can help you assess, right?
Yeah,
whether
exactly.
you're doing the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or even run the code. So basically, because you have also the option to run the code and see the result. Yeah. But of course, transparency is very important. So always, as you said, the formula and the code need to be shown. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Maybe to add how we think about it at Moss also, right? Because we basically built a tool to manage spend workflows, right? So which are in some ways manual and there's predefined processes that the companies want to follow. And still, you can embed AI technology within these. And we really think along two lines of thought there. One is automation, specifically on the accounting process, right? So really removing manual and repetitive tasks. This is something where we have made lots of progress already. Most often we use machine learning models that lend themselves best to do this. And two very concrete things we do there is, data extraction from documents, for example, right? So if you upload an invoice, if you upload a receipt, you need to extract certain values, right? What's the VAT rate? What are the line items? Who is the supplier, etc. And now using LLMs to do this, we actually up the accuracy from 95 to 98 to 99%, right? So 95 is currently sort of the benchmark in the market when you use OCR technology or supplier rules. And that may seem like a small step, right? But if you turn it around and think about how many corrections you have to do, it's like 60 to 80% less, right? Which is very significant. And that's something that already works perfectly fine in a way. And then the other automation use case is the coding of transactions in the pre-accounting process, right? So, mapping your general ledger. And this is also something where, we've added a lot of value already. So, you talked about the need for accuracy, right? You don't want it to be too probabilistic. And that's a very fair concern that we hear. And so what we do is we set very clear thresholds. How sure do we want the model to be? This is even something we can customize for the customer. And so mostly we set that at 95%. That's more or less the error rate a human would definitely have as well. And doing that, we can already remove 87% of the manual codings from the day-to-day.
I think it's important to explain to all of the finance teams that are already using OCR since 10, 15 years, meaning if for people who don't know, OCR is recognizing an image and making it a text.
Right.
Because a lot of PDFs are scanned as images and then recognize the text on it. And this technology is not new. I was in a company where it was implemented already 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But the problem, like you explained, is a lot of processes ended by a human having to decide, here on this invoice, this is the invoice number. Here on this invoice, this is the amount. And now what LLMs do with NLP, meaning that they understand the field.
Correct.
Then because they understand the field, they can propose the best way and the best field to put it in the system.
Yeah.
And replacing all of this rule-based work that the humans were doing. And I think that's really the big change right now, bringing NLP on top of OCR in this AP system.
I agree. I think that's mostly where those jumps in the finance come from.
Well, I think talking about AI in finance and accounting, of course, AI is not new there because we used to work with structured data and we do, for example, cash flow prediction or forecasting or anomaly detection. But the condition was there is to have clear structured data, right?
Yeah.
And now the importance of GenAI that it can work with unstructured data. So it can help you actually fill the gap between unstructured, like invoices, as you said, unstructured. So data extraction, mapping line item description to custom codes, tax codes, or GL account. And this actually can be done now with GenAI. And then you can, of course, then add on top of that, other AI technologies to do what you used to do in like scenario planning and also financial planning on structured data.
Yeah, and so I agree, right? So the other field you're opening up is sort of the second theme we think in. It's controlling FP&A, right? And that's where generative AI, I think, can also play a much bigger role, right? So examples of things that already work pretty well is most companies have a travel and expense policy, right? It's most often a document that's written for the employees to understand what they're allowed to spend, where, right, and when.
And there's also, it's also important for the audience to understand is that GenAI is not only chatbot, right? So it's not to use it as a chat. Yeah. Because this use case is not a chat. It's basically use the intelligence of the system, the natural language understanding to look at invoices and extract the information and map them to the right...
and then map it to the policy, right? So something that we can support now is compliance checks, right? So running through all the spend data and seeing where people sort of hurt the policy, right? So, running manual spot checks every month, right, is obviously a pretty time-consuming task. And that's something where these kinds of models can really help, right? And because it's typically spot checks anyways, I think you can think a little bit more along the lines of, okay, the accuracy is slightly less important, right? Because any insight is sort of a good insight to check. It should obviously not be completely off, right? But spot checks are anyways, by definition, not comprehensive, right? And so, that's a second big theme we think in, I think.
And on travel expenses, I have a funny story.
Yeah.
When I was in charge of a finance team, we had a lot of people leaving for retirement or changing jobs. And it was this task, so booking the receipts and reviewing that they are in line with the travel policies. Exactly. And nobody wants to do it. Really, nobody wants to do it. So we think is AI going to take over our job? Well, there are some tasks that we want that AI is going to
Exactly.
take over.
No one wants to do that, right?
Yeah. And then when you free up the time of booking these travel expenses, then reviewing if they are in line with the policies, and at the end, you just need to focus on these 5 exceptions per month, then the job is more fun because then you're going to call the person that did the travel and you understand and speak with them rather than they get a computer alert. It's not possible. You cannot book that. No, you will talk with the person and you will make it more human. Yeah. So even the experience you can improve because then you have more time to make human tasks and you let the robotic task to the AI. And at the end, you improve your processes because you run more receipts. Yeah. You have less chance of errors because most probably if the accounting person she is late or he is late, and there is again this travel expenses to book, then it will be done a bit faster than normally, and then sometimes errors will not be seen.
Yeah.
So, and at the end, if there are exceptions, then you make it between humans and not only robot humans.
Correct. Yeah. Because most often they don't mean badly, right? So it's just lack of awareness or so.
Yeah.
But I would like to emphasize on that it's replacing tasks and not jobs. I think this is important.
Yes.
So there's a huge difference between both.
Exactly. like being a controller,
Yeah.
not checking the receipt frees you up to actually improve the business, right? Really make substantial changes. Yeah. We actually just ran a survey interviewing 750 finance professionals across Europe. Specifically like more in the SMB space, right? So not really enterprise. And the numbers were pretty interesting. So 15% only said that they are already actively using AI in their day-to-day, right? So like I think that jives pretty well with what you were saying. But 75% said that they are actively implementing or planning to implement more of AI in their daily workflows, which I think really shows that we're sort of at a verge, right? It feels like, and I think most people have understood that it's a topic that you probably cannot get around. But yes, there's probably some remaining discomfort and just lack of knowledge, right? To really start at scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in general or in summary, there are two major concerns that we experience. So there is a data privacy concern, and there is, of course, the transparency and auditability, and also losing control in general. So we can put them all under one category. And I want to talk more on the transparency, auditability part, and losing control. I think there is the most challenging part, because especially when we talk about finance and control, we have control as a word. And for most finance professionals, or also in tax and legal in general, they feel that when they are using an AI application, they are losing control, because your only task is to give an input and look at the output, but you don't have control of what is happening in between. So there's a black box, and you don't have control in actually improving that. So this is the also of course you can improve it by prompt fine-tuning and so on, but not improving the model. And this is actually a problem that we solve by adding more explainability, or maybe breaking the large task to smaller tasks, where you have more control on smaller tasks, of course, than larger task. I will give you an example of a tool. It's not a GenAI tool actually, but a tool that we built about 7 years ago. It's anomaly detection and transactional data, so mainly about VAT.
Yeah.
And I worked on this tool when I joined PwC, and I was a data scientist coming to a large corporate, working with tax consultants. When I built the tool and I ran anomaly detection, I couldn't explain how it works, right? Because they basically tax advisor, they understand it in a way like logic. So it's basically more like connectivity between shipper and, for example, ship from, ship to. So we changed the way actually we built the tool in more explainable AI. So we ask AI first to extract VAT rules out of data, and then analyze these rules to detect anomalies, and then visualize these rules to our tax consultants. So they felt that they have control because they see actually the language that they understand. Yeah. And this, of course, very important also for auditability, because you can actually then have first a result that is actually controllable and understandable, and you have human oversight as well. Yeah. This is my experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Or?
No, I share that. But one more thing we do is we make it very easy to then double click into the insight, right? So let's say the AI tells you like, hey, you should look at this or that. It's very easy to double click on a line item level, right? And then sort of that's the ultimate check that you can run. And what we do on top is we don't like run one model for everyone, but we have customer and even use case specific models. So they learn from that exact use case and even user to improve over time. And then I think the combination of those two plus what you mentioned, like making the methodology transparent really, is a major step up. When you think about the core daily workflows, right, in accounting, for example, where you deal with transactional data, that by definition is confidential, right? Both from a GDPR, but also from a general confidentiality perspective. So I think it's fair to say that there it really matters to either be on an enterprise account or even more so. So what we do is we work with closed models. Same thing I mentioned on the auditability piece, right? So we have models that are customer and use case specific. And so any transactional data that's fed into those models never leaves the exact customer account. That's a really big priority for us. So not even for training purposes, right? So
personalized models for you.
It's highly personalized, and none of the data is shared across any other customer. Last but not least, because the rules, right, how you link transactions to the general ledger, etc., they're different, right? So it's not the same across every company. So they also need to be trained just based on that specific company's data, I believe. And then sort of that also solves the data privacy issue.
And how do you answer to companies that are really concerned by this data privacy because they hear a lot of rumors, they maybe themselves are not sure about what is their threshold of security level that their own company needs. So how do you approach that? And how do you explain also in a simpler way for finance people that are not IT people?
Right. Yeah. So with assets, explaining the logic, how this works technically in simplified terms, right? And I think the essence of it is there's a model, it's just for you, and none of the data will ever leave your company account, right? So you can think, you made the reference to other cloud usage. I think it's pretty much like that. And then that's also reflected in our contracts and our documentation that you would typically
It was actually very important when it comes to Gen AI to explain this, because Gen AI generate content, right? And if you are training Gen AI on data from different clients,
right,
there is some moment where it might generate data related to your competitor or to other clients. So I think having customized, personalized model trained only on your own data is actually very important.
And that's where the finance domain also is a little bit different, probably, right? It's just by nature of what we do. It's more confidential data. Okay, so we heard about what we can do with AI. We addressed some of the most common concerns, how we can also address those. Let's assume more people want to get started, right? Nicolas, I think, you guide people on this journey quite a bit. Can you maybe share some best practices on how to approach this?
Yeah, that's actually the number one question that CFOs ask me. Where do I start and how do I move my team, my company to use AI more in finance?
Yeah.
And so I spend a lot of time talking with different companies and with also different providers. And I made a roadmap that I divide between small companies or small teams, medium. So here you have medium companies, or I would say countries or big departments, and large companies. So if you are small, either a small company or just you have your team, then you need to start by understanding what is AI. You need to use the generative AI tools that are available for everybody and use it for your productivity. And the number one process you should have digitalized is really your account payables. And there inside, you can use a lot of OCR technologies coupled with NLP to really make this process not 100% digitalized, but like 98%. And there you will get the most buck for your money. The second part in the middle is when you have bigger teams, so either a country or really like a big finance department, where you will identify one or two processes with a lot of transactions, and where there, in this process or end-to-end process, you want to implement AI by taking AI native tools or a provider that is using AI really strongly to improve this process. Yeah. Then the second one is to start forecasting with AI, because now all of these machine learning algorithms are available for free using Python, and you don't need much knowledge to start. You can already start by forecasting with AI. And the third one is to start creating your own GPTs if you are using GenAI. So that's really something you can do. Then when you go to the large companies or really like large finance teams.
Just for reference, what's large for you?
For me, large is above 10,000 employees.
Yeah. So enterprise, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you have, maybe like in banking, you might have less employees, but you have so much cases that are ripe for finance. So in those large contexts, then you will need to start to build your own model with your own data, because that's how you can get edge. Then you will also have your chatbot that is based on your data to help departments. So instead of each department answering themselves, they will have a chatbot at the entry that will provide services. And the third one, instead of using open models for forecasting, you can start creating your own algorithm, because you know how your business works, you know what are the drivers, you know what are the correlations, and you will really create a significant advantage.
Yeah.
But that means also you need a lot of resources, you need data scientist teams, you need consultants, which if you are at the small and medium level, you probably don't have either the money or the time for this.
Yeah. Okay, so the S is sort of buy one tool out of the box. Medium is differentiate by use case, but you still buy something, and then starting at 10,000 employees, roughly, that's where it's worth it to develop your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Any thoughts on your end? You obviously, I mean, that's your daily bread, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are two, I would say, dimensions to look at. So one, of course, is the slow adoption that needs to be done. So not to go too fast or too large when it comes to GenAI. And we deal with this by selecting what we call champions. For example, if I talk about the tax consultant, consultant that knows the technology can explain it to another tax consultant much better than AI technician or AI expert.
Yeah.
So we build this bridge, I would say, between AI experts and tax consultant by defining or selecting these champions, which we call in the middle. And this accelerates the adoption by a lot. We have another example, which it's not at PwC, but we know that it didn't work, where they actually released many licenses about one of the AI providers and asked the employees, you have now AI, start using it.
Yeah.
And what happened there, of course, is because there's no proper upskilling, there are no proper use cases, the definition. So actually the adoption went very low, and actually it's really hard to recover that after this first experience. So
because the impact was probably even lower, right?
Right, exactly, absolutely. And the second dimension, which is very important that we work on with our client, is knowledge management. Or, of course, there's data management, which is important, but we focus more on knowledge management because GenAI is mostly knowledge-driven. And by knowledge, I mean everything you have within your company written in documents or in unstructured data, like policies, contracts, opinions, for example. This is knowledge. And, of course, you have also knowledge in emails, you have knowledge in messages, and so on. So how you can first organize that knowledge to leverage in AI. Because now what happens is when we build custom GPT, people tend to think that, okay, I just connect this to my whole knowledge base, connect it to all SharePoints, or put maybe all folders or all files in one folder that I have, and then let it select, for example, and then answer questions. It is not the case. You still need to build your own taxonomy within the company. You need to actually organize your knowledge well, And if you do that, actually you are ahead of your competitors. So knowledge management is very important.
But I think that's a good point, right? You need to make sure that the AI understands the underlying data structure. Which is actually sometimes not that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you are building custom GPTs that are linked to different domains or different. So you cannot build one for HC tax accounting and just let it select the right document, so that it will be difficult.
Yeah. I think I hear both of you there. Like, so what we see work best at Moss is sort of an overlay. So I think you do need that one champion. And start somewhat small, right? Like pick that first use case, as you also said. I think accounts payable is one that we also see work very well because it's a very obvious use case for it. You very quickly see the value, right? So people get excited, which really helps the adoption. And then you go step by step, use case by use case. I think we generally now use AI thing we haven't seen work very well.
And one fun activity initiatives that you can do as a company is to make a mini hackathon. And I say mini because it doesn't have to be widespread. It doesn't have to be 2 days. It can be just like a 2 hours workshop where you give small rules and you just say, okay, create as many use cases as you can with just this tool. And at the end, you finish as a team to select what are the best one. But just because you block the calendar of your team and you allow them to focus on the problem, you will move so much faster than if you let it a bit too much unorganized.
Thank you so much. This has been a really great chat. I hope it was insightful for our audience as well. It feels like we're seeing a lot of the same things, to be honest, and it feels like things are really picking up. I'm assuming many people joined us today because they want to understand, right, how to stay ahead of the curve, what to do like right now. Any final thoughts from you on that one?
On my side is probably if people are watching, they are already in the top 5-10% of people who have an interest in AI, who understand how important it is. And everything the people learn today, they should not keep it for themselves. They really should bring all of the other 90% that maybe don't understand yet the importance of it, or maybe didn't take the time for it. And as the people watching are in front of the others, bring everybody with you, like bring your colleagues, your friends, your wife, your husband, and really show them how AI can help finance. And like this, I believe that in finance, we should be the AI champion in business because we are the one who have access to a lot of data. We are the one who are at the crossroad of a lot of other departments. And also, we are usually really good with technology. So if we combine the three and become the champions of using AI for business, then finance will be even better in all of the companies. And I'm sure people watching will have a better job and it will be more fun to work in finance.
Love that. Ahmad, any final thoughts?
I would add start early. But don't start too fast, so early and not too fast. Select your champions if you are running an organization, and use these champions basically to transfer their knowledge, their experience to other subject matter or related subject matter experts. I will still emphasize on work on knowledge management in your organization, and work on upskilling and training programs. Because all come together.
Why not start with the first use case, right? Accounts payable, maybe. It's not yet used. Tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.